Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. I'm testing. All right, let's go. Hey cousin, welcome to CoCo Conjure. Here we talk about all things hoodoo, folklore, and spiritual journeys. My goal is to provide a foundation for the novice and inspiration to the advanced practitioner. If you have not guessed already, my name is CoCo. Cousin, I want to thank everyone who's left a 5-star review, a thumbs up, and subscribed or followed the podcast. Your engagement continues to encourage me, and I'm blessed to have your ear. I woke up this morning and I had like 134 subscribers on YouTube. And, you know, to some folks, that's like nothing. But to me, that was insane because I'm trying to figure out where all these extra people came from. Thank you so much for hitting that subscribe button. You have no idea how much that means to me. As obvious by the title of this episode, we are talking about folklore today. To round out our John DeConca series, that's John DeConca, JOHNDECONKA, John DeConca. To round out our John DeConca series, the theme of this episode is John stories. Cunning or foolish John stories are classic story structure in Black American folklore. 90% of the time, the hero or the fool of Black American folklore is named John. And that other 10% of the time, when it's like Jack or Bill, the structure is normally the same. A male slave named John gets caught up in the goings-ons of a plantation, or a white guy, or some mystical being like the devil. And he either proves himself a fool or proves himself wise. Perhaps that's why Zora Neale Hurston found High John the Conqueror weaved throughout Black folklore and imagination. For more on that, please check out the previous episode. I want to say like 2 episodes ago, when I specifically talk about John the Conqueror and how Zora Neale Hurston sees him, how an academic sees him, and, you know, my take on him. Too long, didn't read. My take is that it doesn't matter if he's a real person or not. He's a spirit that lives within our community. He's the everyman who overcomes. And that is literally like quintessential hoodoo. And that spirit lives in a root. And in order to really utilize that spirit in your practice, you need the root. You need the root. But that doesn't stop us from telling stories. That doesn't stop us from enjoying the folklore. So that's what we're going to do today. We will, in fact, dig into a John the Conqueror story by Hurston. But before we get there, I thought I'd introduce a new author to our hoodoo library. I finally got my hands on a copy of the book. Is called The People Could Fly, American Black Folktales. This is written and told by Virginia Hamilton. Virginia's bio on her Amazon profile reads as follows. Virginia Esther Hamilton was born, as she said, on the outer edge of the Great Depression on March 12, 1934. The farmlands of southwestern Ohio had been home to her mother's family since the late 1850s, where Virginia's grandfather, Levi Perry, was brought into the state as an infant via the Underground Railroad. In her lifetime, Virginia wrote and published 41 books in multiple genres that spanned picture books and folktales, mysteries and science fiction, realistic novels, and biographies. Woven into her books is a deep concern with memory, tradition, and generational legacy, especially as they helped define the lives of African Americans. Virginia describes her work as liberation literature. She won every major award in youth literature. So yeah, y'all, I was so hyped to get a hold of her book. I knew that I would be, that it would be full of laughter and fun and thought-provoking tales. So without further ado, The story I'm going to read to you is John and the Devil's Daughter, written by Virginia Hamilton in her book, The People Could Fly, American Black Folktales. Let's talk about the one time this young man, John, who could conquer. They called him John the Conqueror. He was going out hunting for a labor. He was hunting with the devil. He expects to get some work with him, but there is no wagon ride to where the devil is. You have to find the witch lady. So he did. He found her. She had this giant bird. Call him some great big kind of eagle. How much it cost to ride? John the Conqueror asked the witch lady. Cost you meat, she told him. How much meat? He says. And she says, beef and quarters, maybe 3/4. That much? He says. And she says, when my giant eagle lets us screeching, you give him a quarter beef. So John got on and paid the meat, and the eagle took off rising, flapping his wings. John held on the biggest feather he could reach. Big as a pine tree it was. Eagle just flew and flew. 10 mile, 100, 1,000 miles. The eagle let out a screeching. And John the Conqueror takes up his sack of beef. He gets a quarter and tosses it to the eagle. Eagle catches it in its beak. Another 1,000 miles, eagle lets out a mighty noise. A big, big, big screech, as big as a cloud. John gets the sack, gives him another quarter beef. Eagle is full up now. He flies and flies, maybe 2,000 miles now, and then he comes swooping low. And then he lands. John the Conqueror, hanging from a pin feather, let go. Now he's down on the ground. She's standing right there, the devil's daughter. John says to her, I'm hunting some work with the devil. Have you seen him? He's not a bit scared of her. Oh, well, she says, the devil is my daddy. He'll give you a labor, but don't take it. Others have come to work and he's killed them. John asks, well, why? And the devil daughter says, because none of them could do it. They couldn't do the work that was given to them. Is that so? Says John. He says, well, I have to find some work. Well, she says, if you have to, then you just have to do what he says. Just gotta try. Will you help me out? Asks John. He was seeing how pretty she was. She smiled at him and said, I'll help you out. She saw how strong and handsome he was. So she take him to her father, says to the devil, she says, Daddy, I brought this one to meet you. Name of John, looking for a labor. Devil says to Big John, all right, here's some work. First thing in the morning, you clear me some land, 60 acres. Don't take all day, just half a day. Make sure the trees is cut. Don't leave them. So Big John the Conqueror, he's up and out the next morning without any breakfast. It was early. He wanted to get a head start. He cuts 1 or 2 big trees by 10 o'clock, and he's got acres to go. The devil's daughter comes out there right by where he's working. She feels sorry for him. He's way, way behind. He'll never make 2, let alone a half a day. She says, John, just give me that hatchet. And he does. And she shows him a thing or two. Talking to the hatchet, she says, let 1 tree fall, all will fall. Trim 1 limb, trim all. Burn 1 branch, burn all. The 60 acres is cut on fire and burnt up in a second. Nothing is left to bother the eye, smooth and it's looking over the land. Then the devil daughters goes off. The devil comes out to see what John the Conqueror has done. Did you do my work the way I said? The devil asked him. It got done, John the Conqueror says, and that wasn't a lie. Devil nods. Not bad, pretty good, he says. Now, in the morning, you go plow that 60 acres. You go plant it. I want some roasting ears, good and sweet, for my meal tomorrow night. John gets up way early in the morning. He hitches the horse to the plow and straight rows. But it's after 11 and he hasn't even plowed 10 acres yet, let alone 60. The devil's daughter is there, brings John a jug of water for his thirst. He drinks all of it. He was that thirsty. She says to him, "Don't worry, Big John, I'll plow it for you." She's got her eye on him. She's completely stuck on him. She talks to the plow and says, "Plow one row, plow all. Plant a kernel, plant all. Corn grow high over my head. Now," she says to John, "pick yourself some good ears for my devil daddy." So he does. Now, the daughter knows the father is going to kill John anyhow. Because John the Conqueror, see, he's just too big for him, too sweet on his daughter. But John didn't know nothing. "We could get married," she tells John. "Well, the devil would kill us both," John tells her. "Well, I got me 2 fastest horses. We'll go get them," the daughter says. "When daddy's asleep, we'll just ride off and then we'll marry." So that was the plan. Wait until the devil is asleep, midnight, then go out for the horses that belong to the devil. They get on and ride off. Daughter says, "Horses run on 500 miles, jump it." Now by morning, they are far, far, far away. Now the devil, he wakes up. He sees that they went out. See that his favorite horses is missing. And he decides he gonna put on his boots, his high hip boots. John, the devil's daughter, they look back and the devil is saying to those boots, "Step it, I say high step it. Make each step 500 miles. So the devil daddy is almost to them and the daughter don't know what to do. John the Conqueror says, "Don't know what to do, but we better hurry up and move." "Well, I think I might have thought of something," she says. "You be a fox," she says to John. She turns herself into a pond of water with a duck on it swimming around. And so John the Conqueror, big as anything, turns himself into an old gray fox. The fox is trying to get at the duck when the devil high steps by. Devil can't see him, just sees a gray fox trying to snap up a duck on a pond. The devil, he went on, but his legs are worn out. That's too much high stepping, you see. His feet hurt him, and his boots, they are steaming hot. He has to get a big old animal, so he looks around, and he finds himself a big, big bull. "Come on," says the daughter to John. "He's going to come back for his bull. We'll make up some time." So they hurried along. "Jump 500, girl says to the horse. "Jump 1,000, jump 500,000. And so the horses did. Half a day later, she looks back. And who's coming? The devil. That's who, hot on their tail. Devil come on saying, you bull, jump it." She says, "My daddy is coming with his bull under him. He's riding real hard." John tells her, "I don't know what to do about your devil daddy." So they were passing by some thorny bushes, and she tells him, Okay, reach me some thorns." So John does it. He hands a whole thorny bush over to her. John was strong, you see. She takes it from him and says, "Plant one thorn, plant all. Up thorn, 4 feet up, 10 feet up, 15 feet wide. Make it 1,500 miles long." And on command, that thorn hedge went up. It was long and it was wide and it went on forever. So the devil, he comes up to this thorn hedge and his bull stops right in its tracks. Can't get through. So the devil says to himself, "I know, I'm going to go back and I'm going to get my hatchet and I'm going to cut through." So the devil does. And when he comes back, man, it took hot summers and it took cold winters and it took almost to the end of time to cut through that hedge. But by the time he got through, there wasn't a scent or a look of John, the horses, or his daughter. They say John and the devil's daughter made it all right, and the devil never caught him. The two got married, said they farmed all around, and John and her made a good home, had lots of children, and lived happily ever after. And that's how it went. What a fantastical and classic story. I think this is the first folklore story that I've read where the defined witch or witch-like person wasn't a boo hag or some sort of creature. And you know what? They were helpful. That's the witch lady at the start with her big eagle and the devil's daughter with her magic words. Both of them were just helpful and important to the narrative. John could not have done anything without one of the two of them. If you're new here, I like to find a kernel of wisdom in every story that I read. My takeaway from this one is find yourself a magical partner. Yes, John was strong. Yes, John was handsome. Yes, John was not afraid to do the work, not afraid to get his hands dirty. And yes, he is the conqueror, but he was not fast or nearly as magical as the devil's daughter. And when the devil's daughter found her complementary opposite in John being strong and hardworking, she locked that down real fast. She was like, I need me some of that. And to John's credit, at no point did he seem at all to be put off or intimidated by what the devil could do. He wasn't even scared of her when he first met her because he knew himself. He knew what he was capable of. And he knew that if it was going to get done, the two of them had to do it together. All right. Our next story is found in Richard M. Dorson's America Negro Folktales. This is a classic one for us in the podcast. We talked about Richard M. Dorson and all of his informants a lot in the folklore episodes. This tale I'm about to read, our John is probably a real person, though the story itself may or may not be completely true. The tale is called The Escape of John Bennett, told to Dorson by his informant, James Coker. I've talked to lots of them ex-slaves. John Bennett, whose boy Ed lives in Calvin now, he used to tell me how he escaped. He was half white, tall, and freckled, and wore his hair long. He was a holster boy, a roustabout, crossed and mixed too. Had little education. He forged his own press and printed free papers, wrote the magistrate's name on them. He stole a riding horse and rode to Kellerby-ware, and he sold it there because he needed the money, and set out walking to Ohio. He'd sleep in the daytime and travel at night, following the North Star. One night he got a chicken, cooked it and ate it and started on, and saw he wasn't very far from Ohio. So he stopped in a cornfield by the spring, started to eat an ear. That's when he heard the dog a-barking, He knew that dog was hot on his trail, so he ran and he climbed a tree about 1/4 a mile off to get away from the bloodhound. A man came along with the dog and said, "Come on down." And John, he was like, "Don't shoot me, don't shoot me." And the man was like, "I won't, but if you run, you gonna bite lead." They went back to the spring together. The man sat the gun down by the tree to get a gourd for a drink, and John walked around and grabbed it and shot him with his own gun. Pow! Then he shot the dog. Pow, pow! Next day, John saw a colored man walking alone along the banks of the Ohio. He spoke to Bennett and said, "I'm a free man. I'm helping you fellows across." So he rode across to a little house, which was a station on the Underground Railroad. About 10 of the farmers came around and gave Bennett little presents. The colored man rode down a ways, then cut back to Kentucky side. That's when John said he had shot that slave hunter. And they all cheered, so, that's what John said at least. They set him up to the next station, about 20 miles north. He made his way to Philadelphia, worked there a while, and saved $150 and came here to Michigan and settled on the farm across the creek where Mr. Steele is. He told me that sitting right there, right where you are. He said, "I don't care who knows I killed that man." So, unlike Hamilton's John, heard John the Conqueror story, this John Bennett, he was a real guy. He didn't have the devil's daughter to cast a spell and lay some hoodoo down. He had to take his life in his own hands. And lucky for him, Victory was his middle name. And you know what? What I like most about John Bennett is he wasn't afraid to tell people about it. He had no shame in what he did in order to survive. No guilt, it seemed like. So my takeaway from the escape of John Bennett is your life might not be extraordinary by other people's standards, but if you consciously play the lead in your own tale, it's definitely worth telling. All right. Our final story, as promised, is from Zora Neale Hurston. I just got my hands on a copy of her book, Every Tongue Gotta Confess, Negro Folktales from the Gulf States. Unlike her other books, the folklore told in this one isn't framed by colorful characters telling the stories to her. Much like her other books, though, this story goes untitled. So I'm naming this one The Power of Prayer. In slavery time, old Massa wasn't very good to John. So John got tired of the nonsense. So one day he made up a plot with his buddy to fool old Massa. So they put up a whole heap of groceries up in a sycamore tree. So when old Massa come out to the field, John starts to fussing. John said, "Old Massa, I'm tired of the way you treats me. You works me before the day and after dark. I expect you gonna be working me by daylight and the moon next thing. You don't have feed me. I'm going to tell God what you doing. I'm going to get God after you for this." "Well," said old Massa, "I feed you, don't I? God don't feed you. Do he? So if you don't like it, I say you're going to get plenty on your back and starve too." So John went over under the sycamore tree and fell down on his knees. His buddy was already up the tree. John began to pray. He hollered, "Oh Lord, if I be your servant, send me down a sack of flour." And down come that sack of flour. "Now, Lord, please send your humble servant a side of meat and a bag of rice." And down come rice and some bacon. "Now, Lord, if I ask you to throw me down a sack of meal and a sack of sugar and a can of lard and a ham, if it be thy holy righteous will, I know you will do it." And down came everything he asked for. Old Master's eyes was popping. He didn't know what to do. John got up off his knees and told old Master, he said, "I'm going to get down on my knees and I'm going to ask them to hit this place with a big old bolt of lightning and kill all these weak white folks. Believe if I ask him to destroy the world, he going to do it." Old Master got scared and told John, Now, don't do that, John. Don't do that, John. If you don't ask him that, I'll give you your freedom and 40 acres and $1,000. So old Massey, he give it to John. And that's how the niggas got freedom. Cousin John was ready for old Massey in this tale. Baby, he was cunning from the start. Reminds me of something an old mentor used to tell me. Miss Linda. Miss Linda, she'd say to me, she go, Coco, to succeed, you just got to remember your P's. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance. Yeah. Spontaneity and this is the spice of life. It's definitely the spice of life. Because in that P protocol, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. That P protocol is my mantra. I live by it, man. Oh man. And you know what else? My mom, your auntie, she used to tell me too, when the P protocol fails, you got to remember your last P, and that's you got to pivot. Pivot as best you can. You know, I love that. That's definitely the takeaway of that tale. Proper planning prevents piss poor performance, cuz. All right. We've made it to the part in the podcast where I like to go to the webs, the boards, the internets, and answer a question. When you read a lot of folklore, a lot of folksy sayings are also kind of mixed in. So when I saw this question, I was like, uh-oh. Let me see if I can find a folksy saying for it, but I couldn't. So the question is, this one's, I don't know where I got this from. It's from somewhere. The question is, my left eye been jumping about 2 months. What does that mean? Is it one of my powers? So I couldn't find anywhere in folklore where they talked about your left eye jumping in particular. So I'm just going to tell you what happens to me. Usually when I have the eye twitch, like when your eyelid starts to twitch, it means a couple things. It could be physical. So you need to look at your diet, make sure you're getting enough potassium, make sure you're not getting a whole lot of salt, just the right balance of electrolytes. It could also mean that you're not sleeping well. But for the most part, when my eye twitches anyway, it means I'm stressed. That's what it means. It means I'm stressed and it's time to do work. It means that there's something in my life that's a disturbance, something that I'm subconsciously letting float under my radar and I'm not addressing. And that left eye twitch lets me know that, hey girl, you stressed out. You might not be panicking. You might not be, upset all day, every day, but you're in a situation you should not be in. So let's take a second. Let's step back. Let's figure out, what's causing this stress, what's causing your discomfort. And then let's do some sort of work to fix it. So yeah, but there's normally a lot of the folksy sayings that happen, and I swear I couldn't find anything about the left eye jumping. There was something about we got an itch on your palm. There's money coming. Sweeping over the feet. That's one. But nothing about the left eye jumping. So if I had to answer that question, I'd be like, cousin, sweetie, honey, look at your diet. Make sure you're getting your vegetables. Make sure you're taking your multivitamin. Make sure you're getting some good sleep at night. And then if that's not it, you stressed out, boo. Something in your life is causing strife. And you need to remove it immediately. Uncross, remove, fix it, as it were. We don't talk about the fact that when we hold stress and anxiety, it's not just the physical, like it doesn't just physically manifest as like panic attacks or like poor sleep. It literally can sometimes be held up in your body. It's held up in your joints. It's held up behind your eyes, at your temple. So the headaches, the eye twitching, that's all physical signs of emotional distress. Sometimes your body keeps count. Isn't that what they say? Your body keeps the score. And that's very true. I find it to be true anyway. So yeah, gotta take care of that, cuz. All right. So we've reached the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for being with me, for staying as long as you have. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe wherever you are. I appreciate you for doing so. Cousin, before we go, I just want to let you know that you deserve the world, for sure. That sometimes we need magical partners. Sometimes we can do it all by ourselves. And sometimes we just got to make sure that we plan ahead. But regardless, we can overcome our obstacles. We can succeed, and we have victory as a middle name all the time, every time. Be sure to get good sleep. Be sure to relax your nervous system. Be sure to uncross. And know that if you call for your blessing, cousin, they will come to you. Have a good one.